What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country, in Washington, D.C., and everything you need to know about on a daily basis, including money, investing, the stock market, the fourth stimulus package update, stimulus check update, and daily news. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button right now so you don't miss out on new videos that come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Subscribing is completely free to do so make sure to do it right now so you don't miss out on new videos. We got some major news today. Also, thanks so much to everybody that wished me a happy birthday yesterday. It was a fabulous day. Thank you guys. You guys are amazing. We got some major news today. Russia has officially invaded Ukraine on a more major scale, and they have bombed Ukraine. That's right. I know it's a very sad situation here. First, we had this yesterday night from the Ukraine president.
Good evening. With his country now under a state of emergency, under cyber attack, and surrounded on three sides by Russian troops, Ukraine's president made a direct appeal tonight to the Russian people. Speaking after midnight, Ukraine's President Zelensky said Vladimir Putin has approved the invasion of his country and in Russian warned the consequences, not just for Ukraine, could be dire.
There are over 2,000 kilometers of common border between us. Your army is along that border now. Almost 200,000 soldiers, thousands of military vehicles. Your leadership approved for them to take a step further, to the territory of another country. This step can become a great beginning, can become a beginning of a great war at the European continent.
President Zelensky went on to say that he tried to reach Vladimir Putin by phone today but got silence instead. And that alone speaks loudly, as does the break his speech tonight represents after weeks of downplaying a threat that the Biden administration and others had been warning was imminent, a warning that got louder today.
So then, after the Ukraine president made a heartfelt plea to the Russian people, and Russian President Putin declined his call, Putin sent in the troops into Ukraine even further and proceeded to bomb Ukraine.
And I do have some bad news to report. This is from one of our fixers, the people who help us translate and understand what's going on in Ukraine. She says that in the city of Podolsk, there was a bombing, 6 dead, 7 wounded, 19 missing. This is the city of Podolsk. It is the first reports that we've had so far of casualties from the early morning aggression, the early morning bombing in multiple cities across Ukraine. Matt, one more question to you. I wonder how much of a threat is it to Vladimir Putin to lose public support? And I ask that because it's not really a democracy over there. The polls are not free and fair. What's at risk here for him?
Substantial, I think. We obviously don't know how it's going to play out. We don't know what the Russian people are going to do, but there are some things we do know, that especially in the past year, but going back many years, the Russian government under Vladimir Putin has engaged essentially in a systematic dismantling of civil society. The free press, what's left of it, is in tatters. The opposition, of course, in the past year especially, has been decimated. You know, the largest opposition figure in this country, Alexei Navalny, 18 months ago, someone tried to poison him with a military-grade nerve agent. They didn't succeed. He returned to Russia. He's now in prison. He's actually on trial this week for an additional 15 years on charges that are understood, again, to be politically motivated. So it's not clear how any kind of organized opposition could emerge from this right now. Of course, organic opposition is always possible, but they've done a lot to kind of shield themselves from public opinion, I would say, in recent years. But it's the big question now, Katie.
Yeah, so you can see the major headlines here. Russia officially declares war, launches major attacks in Ukraine, multiple bombing sites in multiple different areas here, explosions reported all across the country of Ukraine. Tanks are rolling in across Ukraine.
But also unclear if they're coming to Kyiv, but they're certainly headed in the direction of the capital. Meanwhile, here in the capital, people continue to evacuate the highway going west to the western portion of the country, which is widely seen as the safest place to be at this point, is completely jammed. This is a city under martial law. Schools are closed today. Hospitals, the entire medical system is on a state of heightened alert. We're also hearing that they're working to open up the shelters. Speaking to city officials, they have enough shelters here for about 2.8 million people. At night, there's about 3.5 million in the city. So we are also hearing reports that when those sirens were going off, directing people to get to the shelters, many of the shelters were completely packed.
Wow.
So this is a really scary and terrifying situation for the people here in Kyiv. It is worth noting that up until this point, the government has been downplaying this threat and speaking to experts in the buildup to where we are now, and they were critical of that. They said that, while, yes, you want to maintain calm, you don't want people to panic, you also need to inform your population as what to do in the event of the worst case scenario. And I can tell you, Ali, right now, this certainly appears to be the worst case scenario, which is an all-out full-scale invasion of this country,
including the capital. And you're right. Even until a week ago, you had the president of Ukraine suggesting that maybe the West needs to lower the heat on this whole thing, and it may not all be that bad. And I should say, unfair to ask you who those tanks are, because even in 2014, there was always the speculation there were unnamed, unbadged soldiers who had come over, the little green men, who are believed to have been Russian soldiers, but did not identify themselves. So figuring out who's actually coming into Ukraine would be a hard task at the best of times.
I think the difference here, though, Ali, is that in 2014 in Donbass, Russia tried to maintain the pretext that it was the separatists that were at the helm of that military operation there. When, it was pretty clear to everyone all along that it was a Russian-backed operation. They were trying to maintain the pretext, though, that they weren't involved. Same thing in Crimea. But what we heard from the Russian president, earlier, it is very clear that this is Russia assaulting Ukraine.
Yeah, so I think at this point, anybody who thought that Russia wasn't going to do this, I think that this disproves it. Russia has invaded Ukraine at the start of a full scale. Now they have bombed Ukraine, and the problem is what is going to happen now, and the fallout of this, and how long and how bad is this going to get. Stock markets across the world are falling, including the U.S. stock market here in futures before the opening. And the Russian stock market is plummeting big time. This will actually hurt Russia significantly. The U.S. stock market, the Dow Jones, before opening here this morning, futures are down by 800 points here today. Expected to be another large loss here yet again today. Oil and the price of oil is up around $100 a barrel here today, up near a 10-year high, which will push the price of gasoline up because Russia is the world's second largest producer of oil. So that is going to push the price of gasoline here in the U.S. up significantly. And not just in the U.S., across the whole world, just because of this whole situation. Even if the U.S. never buys a drop of oil from Russia, it's going to cause the price of gasoline and oil to go up across the entire world and in the U.S. Yeah, this is hurting Russia significantly. As you can see here from this headline, Russia stocks on the Moscow Stock Exchange were down as much as 50%. 45 to 50%. They had to stop trading on there. You got to think about how much this is actually hurting Russians, the country of Russia, and Putin himself. Their stock market just dropped by 50%, as you can see here from this headline. So imagine that. Imagine their stock market dropping by 50% in one day. For example, the Dow Jones dropping by 100 points is about, that's about what? 2%? 2%. This is 50%. 50%. Literally imagine losing half of the entire valuation of your global economy in for Russia, or your country's economy, in one day because of the actions of your president. So the thing is this is now affecting Americans as well. Even more so, this is going to be affecting inflation. This is going to be rising inflation. This is going to be affecting the price of gas, the price of oil, the price of natural gas, the price of oil, which affects the price of gasoline, is now at $100 a barrel, the highest price in like 10 years. We're going to see the price of gas rise even more than it's already at. It's already at a record high here for multiple years. Expected to rise even more. And who knows how much it's going to rise. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the price of oil just spiked up here just since overnight because of what happened here. So if you think that this doesn't affect us, it does. It does directly with the price of oil, with the price of inflation, because the price of gas has to do with almost everything. It has to do with the price of food. It has to do with the price of everything you buy from the store. Everything with the price of anything you buy has to get trucked in. It has to get shipped in. It has to, get put on the shelf, and that directly has to do with the price of gasoline. Just as one factor alone. And that doesn't even have to do with anything of even just the hint of if there's some type of long-term dealing with war and what might happen long-term with Russia. And we have multiple different countries now putting sanctions on Putin. The US, Canada, Germany, Australia, France, and the entire European Union. Here is the EU, the European Union president. Here's what they had to say. So it's not just the US that's going to be putting sanctions on Russia. The entire European Union, which basically surrounds Russia. Listen to what they had to say.
Later today, we will present a package of massive and targeted sanctions to European leaders for approval. With this package, we will target strategic sectors of the Russian economy by blocking their access to technologies and markets that are key for Russia. We will weaken Russia's economic base and its capacity to modernize. And in addition, we will freeze Russian assets in the European Union and stop the access of Russian banks to European financial markets. Like with the first package of sanctions, we are closely aligned with our partners and allies, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, but also, for example, Japan and Australia. These sanctions are designed to take a heavy toll on the Kremlin's interests and their ability to finance war. And we know that millions of Russians do not want war. President Putin is trying to turn the clock back to the times of the Russian Empire. But in doing so, he is putting at risk the future of the Russian people. I call on Russia to immediately stop the violence and to withdraw its troops from Ukraine's territory. We will not let President Putin tear down the security architecture that has given Europe peace and stability over many decades. We will not allow President Putin to replace the rule of law by the rule of force and ruthlessness. He should not underestimate the resolve and strength of our democracies. And history has proven that societies and alliances built on trust and freedom are resilient and successful. And that's exactly what the autocrats fear. The European Union stands with Ukraine and its people. We will continue to support them. Ukraine will prevail.
Yeah, you also seen there in the corner, the Russian dollar, the ruble, is also plummeting in value as well. So you got to really think this through here. Is this really worth it for Russia? Um, the problem here is that it seems that Putin is just kind of it seems like he's just one of those guys that when he puts his mind to it, he's just going to do what he wants and he doesn't care what anybody else says. All these different countries, dozens of countries are going to sanction him, not trade with him, not buy his oil, freeze his assets that are, in all these other countries. And it's going to put a heavy burden on their country. He's not going to be able to trade with them. They're not going to buy anything from him. And remember that basically their entire economy is oil and natural gas, and nobody's going to buy it from them except for maybe China, who's an ally from them. This is going to put a severe thing on them. Their stock market has dropped 50% in one day. Their dollar is dropping by the minute. Their banks are getting assets frozen across the world. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? And who knows what's going to happen here going forward, right? Yeah, let me know your thoughts here. And it's affecting all of us. It's affecting people in the U.S., across the country. Stock markets across the world are dropping, not nearly as much as Russia's. But remember that over 50% of people in the U.S., regular everyday people, have money in the stock market. People with pensions, 401ks, retirement funds. Now, if you're a long-term investor, it's probably a good time to buy, because if you don't need the money right now, you're buying on the low. Buy low, sell high. So if you don't need the money right this instant, you're buying low. So it's a good time to buy if you don't need the money right this second, because again, it's just kind of a dip in the market. Speaking of that, Ukraine actually has, oh my God, there's just so much news. There's just so much. It's crazy right now. Ukraine actually kind of has a run on the banks right now. There's thousands of people in line to get their money out of the banks. There's thousands of people stuck in traffic jams trying to flee the country now that people kind of realize that it's actually happening. It's just kind of one of those things that people didn't know if it was actually going to happen until it happened. It's tough to leave your home, right? But now that there's bombs being dropped in the country, what do you do? Do you stay? Do you leave your home? It's a tough situation. The Ukraine president actually sent out, first of all, they declared martial law in the country. And he sent out a message that basically said anybody that can fight and defend the country should come and do so. Anybody. Imagine if that happened here. Imagine if that happened here. Just yeah. So you also kind of got to wonder, like, what's going to happen here going forward? What's going to happen going forward? And yeah, so President Biden is going to announce more sanctions later today on Russia, what they call the full suite of sanctions, or the full impact of sanctions. The European Union's going to announce sanctions. Again, you got to kind of wonder, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And Ukraine's going to defend against this. Russia says that they have knocked out Ukraine's air defenses. We'll see. Russia also claims that they rolled into Ukraine and didn't have resistance. Ukraine did say that they shot down 5 fighter jets of Russia and then took out some of their tanks. It's very, very early, though. So, we're going to have to see here. It's basically day one. But remember that Ukraine just has a fraction of the size of Russia. So I think they have like about 1/10 of the size of the army of Russia. So it's not really expected to be a long-term battle. Remember that the U.S. is not really going to go to battle for Ukraine. So we kind of gave them supplies, but they're not in NATO. They're not actually in NATO. So we're not actually going to defend for them. So uh, it's just kind of it's a tough situation. Tough situation. But a lot of people are saying here, this is not the first time Putin's done this, and what next? What happens next? And all these other countries around the European Union are like, we've seen this happen before. What's going to happen next? And that is kind of the big question here. And what's the consequences here? What is Biden going to do? What's the European Union going to do? How high is the price of gas going to go? What's going to happen with inflation? What's going to happen with the stock markets? So many unanswered questions here. So I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on. It's a major event here. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Remember that new videos come out here on our channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't yet. I will keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country that you need to know about. So subscribe is completely free to do so. Just click subscribe down below. Let me know your thoughts here. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And you can also click here to see a whole bunch of new stimulus programs that were just announced. Definitely watch that video next if you haven't seen it. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.